Next up, a Star Wars TIE Bomber. Well, hey everyone, and welcome back to another Inner-Shooter Modeler. Ready to get started here on the TIE Bomber. This is a kit available from Mos Eisley Modelworks. The link is below. This is a 3D printed resin kit, and I first got to see the kit at Wonderfest a few months ago. Jason Chadwick, who is behind Mos Eisley Modelworks, showed me the kit, and I was really impressed by the details. I thought it'd be cool to feature it here in a video, so that's the model we'll be working on. Now, Jason is someone I thought would be cool for you guys to meet, so I did an interview with him, just a brief interview a few days ago, and we're going to go to that right now. But before we do that, I want to just apologize ahead of time for the audio. As I was getting started with the interview, I usually wear headphones, and my headphones were given out, and I just wanted to get started, so I disconnected them and didn't think this through because I ended up with some feedback here, and I tried to clean it up as best I could with iMovie, but the audio is a little bit echoey, so just bear with me on that. Jason will return for the final review, and I promise I'll have everything hooked up properly with the audio so we won't have that issue. But let's go ahead to the interview, and then we'll come right back to the bench. All right, guys. Well, before we get started into the build here, I have the pleasure of having the designer of the model, Jason Chadwick, here on with us. Welcome, Jason.
Thanks, Augie.
Yeah, thanks for being on, and it's my pleasure to have you here. And this is a unique opportunity because I've really never had anyone on who's designed a model that I'll be working on here, so this is fun. This is great. So yeah, as I mentioned at the beginning of the video now, Jason is the designer of this particular model we'll be working on. Jason and I had the pleasure of meeting in person at Wonderfest this last June, I guess. Yeah, it's been a couple months now, huh?
Yeah.
And so, you know, Jason approached me just to let me know what he thought about the channel and that he'd been a follower of the channel for some time. We started talking into some of his latest endeavors here, one of which is Mos Eisley Modelworks. And so we got into talking about that, and he brought up this TIE Bomber that he had recently designed at the time and wanted me to take a look at it. So I said, you know what, why don't we just feature it on the channel here? And so here we are. So Jason, can you first talk a little bit about Mos Eisley Models?
Yeah, absolutely. So I started Mos Eisley Modelworks mostly kind of to document my own builds. Mm-hmm. I wasn't sure what Mos Eisley Modelworks was going to be yet. I had gotten back into model building and just wanted a place to kind of talk about it. So I could go back and look and kind of track my own progress. As I got model kits, and obviously mostly Star Wars model kits, I realized the plethora of aftermarket parts that were available.
Yes.
And I was really excited about that. And when I started looking at the parts, some of them were kind of pricey when you want to get all of the parts available for a particular model.
Yeah.
You can spend quite a bit. So I'm usually kind of a do-it-yourself kind of person. So I've worked as a graphic designer for 20 years, and I thought, well, I've designed things in 2D. Mm-hmm. How difficult could it be to learn some new software and to design in 3D? Well, there's a learning curve, but it's rewarding, and it's a lot of fun. So I started designing my own parts. Once I got to that stage, quarantine hit, a year and a half ago, whatever it's been now, and I started selling the files so that other modelers could access some of the files that I had made. That seemed to go fairly well, and I've been able to talk with people as I learned 3D printing and 3D modeling, and I've been able to chat with people through my storefront and kind of help coach them as I feel like we're all kind of learning this process together.
Yeah.
It's new enough. And so that's been great. Yeah, and I upgraded to a Mono X in April, and that was a little bigger, a little faster printer, and so I was able to start offering a little bit of parts, physical models to sell.
So great. So your initial mission, if you will, was to start off providing some parts to make your models more accurate. But it seems to have progressed on to your capability anyway, being able to offer possibly some models then for people who aren't into 3D printing or don't have one, that sort of thing, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely.
That's So, you know, one of the things about Star Wars that I love the most is just the variety of ships, you know, that we see. And
Yes.
I have to ask, you know, considering we're going to be working on this TIE Bomber now, has the TIE Bomber been a long-time favorite of yours? And if so, what do you like about it, or what draws you to it?
Well, I'm going to be honest with you, the TIE Bomber was not a longtime favorite. And to choose a Star Wars ship that is a favorite is like asking a father who their favorite child is.
Right.
You have ones that you like better on certain days, but you love them all the time. And the the Millennium Falcon and the X-Wings, I loved those since I was a kid. But the TIE Bomber seemed to be it was just missing from the 1/72nd scale. I had some of the Bandai kits.
Yes.
And loved them, and I just felt like there was a hole there in that lineup. And I started designing one for myself, and then I thought, well, this has turned out okay. I'll see if anybody else would like these, and I started selling the files and the physical models.
So let's take a look at the model then. As I count, there are about 16 pieces there, and the detailing looks fantastic. So I have to ask, did it take a lot of design time to get the details right? You know, because modelers can be pretty detail-oriented people. The sci-fi modelers tend, sometimes you can get away with a little bit more with sci-fi models versus, say, you know, traditional armor, that sort of thing that people get into. But tell us a little bit about designing it. Did it take a little time to get the details right?
Yeah, so the model as it was when I released it, it took me about a month to design all the parts and work out how they were going to fit together and do the test printing and all that. Because I wanted it to scale with the Bandai models, that was a good starting point for me. And I'm going to be honest with you, I have listened to customers that have already bought the model, and I've gotten great feedback, and have actually, it's been a process of adjustment as I hear back from people.
Yeah.
And I welcome that. It can be a challenge sometimes, but I like to hear back. So there are 16 parts on the kit that you had there. I actually added a pilot.
Okay.
So one of my customers really thought a pilot would be a good addition because it was going to be displayed with his Bandai kits. And so I designed a TIE pilot to fit, and he's exactly the same scale as the one that comes with the Bandai kits.
Oh,
so, but other than that, it's pretty much the same as the one you've got there in your hands.
And so the scale of the one I'll be working on is, just to clarify here, is
1/72nd-ish. Yeah.
Okay, very good.
It will look great next to your Bandai kits.
All right, excellent. Okay, and then so before I begin, any other advice that you have here before I get started with your model?
Well, absolutely. I sent you a link to the download for the instructions, and I like to have instructions for anything I make. So what I have started doing, so I'm not emailing people individually, is every time I sell a kit, I throw one of these cards in, and it's got a link to the download. There's a folder, and you can download the instructions there. So that's a good place to start. Take your time with the masking and test fitting parts. And you know what? If you find things that could be more accurate, add them and take pictures and send them to me. I would love to see them.
All right, very good. Well, thanks, Jason, for being on. So the plan here then, guys, is I'm going to go get started on this model. And really haven't told Jason what I plan to do with it. Obviously, I'm going to build a model, but I have some other ideas with the display that I'm going to include here. And so Jason is going to join us when I'm ready to do the final reveal. And as I mentioned then in the last video, Jason first got to me a kit that was a little smaller. And then shortly after Wonderfest, he contacted me and said, hey, I've got a larger kit. Do you want to build this one instead? So that I said, sure, yeah. So he sent it on down, and then so that means I have two kits now. So Jason and I were just talking here, and we'd love to raffle off the first kit, which is going to be a smaller version of what I'll be building here. So what I'm going to do then is I've been looking into a couple ways to raffle this off. My son gave me an idea of how to do this because I've not done this before. And there's an app actually that allows you to post a comment basically what it's going to do is going to scan the comments for a keyword that I'm going to ask you to leave. So I'm going to give you some more details about this as I wrap up the video. I'm going to go ahead and get started in the build, and so stay tuned as you watch me through this first part here. I will give you details as the video wraps up, and then Jason will join us then in part 2 for the final review. All right, thanks Jason for being on. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Augie.
All righty, let's go ahead and get started. All right, well, thanks again, Jason, and let's go ahead and take a look at the model now. All right, as mentioned a couple times now, there are 16 pieces to this kit. Let me show you the pieces in a little more detail. We've got here the inside of the wing, and of course the outside. And then we've got the two pieces that make up the fuselage, or the main part of the ship. One part has the cockpit, and the other part is the part that holds the bombs, or the bomb bay. And you can see a little more close view of the detailing here. Now you'll notice on one part of the ship here, you'll see these little surface defects, and these of course come from the supports. And the important thing when 3D printing, as many of you know, supports are needed oftentimes, and it's important to be able to put supports in areas that aren't going to be as visible, which is what he's done here, and to create supports that don't leave very deep surface defects. So these are going to be sanded away, and this actually is the middle section of the ship, so they're not very visible to begin with. And here we have now the frame, the window frame, and as you can tell, it does not come with windows. Trying to create windows out of resin is very difficult. In fact, it's just hard to do. And so I am actually going to try to create some windows using some clear styrene. I'll see if I can do that. And then this is the other side of the ship. This goes to the section that has the bombs in it. And this is the section that connects the two halves together. And then we've got some detailing that go on the upper and lower parts of the ship that has the pilot in it. And then we have detailing here for the cockpit. And these go to the exhausts of the engines. And some of these smaller details here, including where the bombs come from, or drop from, and the control panel for the cockpit and the pilot's chair. So as for the color of the ship, after looking at reference pictures of the studio model, it looks to be a blue-gray color. Some people have painted tie bombers as a light gray, which looks fine, but I like the blue-gray color, so I'm going to go for that. And I'm just going to mix my own to what I feel would look right. So I'm going to start off by then sanding away and smoothing out some of the things we need to get to here, particularly where the supports were holding the model down while it was printing. So let's begin. Alright, so just bear with me, there's a little noise in the background because the dryer's on. But what I wanted to let you guys know is that with resin models, occasionally what will happen is you'll notice that the pieces start to curve or warp a little bit. And in order to fix this, because this is supposed to slide inside here, this is the floor of the cockpit. And you'll notice that it won't rest properly unless it's straightened out. So all I've got here is just some warm water and then some cold water on this side. So what I'm going to do is just dip it in here for a second. And since this is fairly warm, I don't want to burn my hands here. Go ahead and dip that in there for a second. Okay, and you can see that it's bending now. Once we get it to the shape we want, and we're going to dip it in the cold water. See, that's pretty straight now. Alright, you can see we straightened it out pretty well. Now if you have to go a little more, you just dip it into the hot water some more, which I think I'm going to go ahead and do. Also, the upper and lower assemblies for the cockpit here and here should curve to the contour of the tube here, but obviously you can see that it's not. So we're going to dip this in warm water as well. Alright, so I now have everything primed. For this I ended up using the Stynol Res Gray Primer. Sometimes with these prints it's a good idea to use a filler primer. There weren't a lot of print lines on here, so I did a little bit more sanding and got rid of most of them and just decided to use the Stynol Res. So this is all set to paint, and for our color now, I ended up mixing the last of what I have for the tester's paints. I ended up using intermediate blue and their camouflage gray mixed together. I added just a few drops of Prussian blue and came up with a nice light blue-gray color. And so we're going to darken it up a little bit with some washes as well. So this might be a little on the light side, but as I was looking at reference pictures, which are really hard to judge, obviously, because the lighting is different from picture to picture, it seems like this would be a good choice here. Alright, well, I thought I would just show you guys that I decided to paint everything black first, because I figured when it came to masking, it'd be easier to mask these basic shapes versus trying to mask, had I painted the blue-gray first, trying to mask the frame around all these larger areas here. And so, since I did that with this, I decided to go ahead and paint everything else black so that the color stays consistent. Either way you do it, masking always tends to be the tedious part of preparation before painting. But as I went along, I got a little faster at it, and I found this to be the best way of doing these panels. Start with one side and apply the masking tape along the length of the edge. Then, with your X-Acto knife, trim the tape at each end. Overlap the next one, except here you'll just need to trim the ends. Finally, overlap the last over the second, aligning one side along the length of the edge as you did with the first, and trim the ends. By doing it this way, you'll see at the end, when the tape is removed, you'll be able to simply peel away the tape off the panel as one piece. As you can see, the sharp end of a toothpick was helpful in getting good adhesion along the edges, making it easy to cut with the X-Acto. Now when I first started, I was trying to fit smaller pieces, particularly into the corners. But following this method, I was able to get all of the panels masked more quickly and efficiently. And finally, you can see here how easy it was to unmask all the panels when painting was completed. And it's always satisfying when everything turns out as planned. Alright guys, well that's going to end it here for part 1, and I'm very happy with the way the model is going along here, and I'll pick it up then in part 2 with continuing the build. I have a couple other things that we're going to get into, including the stand, and I have another thing I'm going to add to the model as I assemble it, but we'll go into that in part 2. So let's go ahead and spend the rest of this time here to talk about the RAFFLE. Now this is just something simple I wanted to offer you guys because I do have this extra kit that's smaller in size, just to kind of show you a size comparison. This is what I'm working on now. This measures about 4¼ inches in length, and this is about 3½ inches. So it's a smaller scale, but it's everything that you see in the kit that I've been working on here. So just to go over some quick rules, and all of this will be outlined in the video's description here. The winner will be decided by a comment picker. This is an app that will be able to sift through the comments, and it's going to look for the phrase, never tell me the odds. This is in honor of Han Solo as he was being chased by the Empire in Empire Strikes Back. As you recall, they were using TIE bombers at one point. So the phrase is, never tell me the odds. And as long as you put in one comment, that's all you need to do is one comment. You don't need to kind of load up the comment section with a bunch of comments for this purpose anyway. You know, just include that phrase. If you want to leave another comment or a question, feel free to do that. But as long as it includes that phrase, the comment picker will consider your comment as an entry. A couple other things to go over for overseas participants. At first, we were going to exclude overseas shipping because of the cost. but my daughter had let me know about this website called Parcel Monkey, I think it's called. Anyway, it's a site that allows for price comparison for international shipping. As my wife were looking into this, it didn't seem like the rates were all that bad. So this is what I'm willing to do. We're willing to put in $20 towards shipping, and anything remaining that's going to be the cost for getting the package over to where you're located will be covered by you. So as long as that is agreeable, feel free to make an entry down below. Also, we can't cover any sort of lost packages or damaged packages overseas. It's hard to track them to begin with overseas. So you just have to enter in with that understanding. Now, we'll be accepting entries up until Saturday, September 25th. So it's not a long time from now. We're posting the video now on Sunday. This is October 19th. So you'll have the remainder of this week to enter a comment. And as of midnight on Saturday, that's when the entries will be closed. On Sunday, it's a week from today, Jason and I will be getting together to tape the final review, or record the final review, and that's when we'll record the announcement on that, and I'll put that video together and hope to have it posted on YouTube here by no later than the 28th. That's my goal. So I'm pretty much on track here. I should be able to meet that goal, but watch the comment section down below, and you can follow me on Facebook under Augie Gonzalez or Interstellar Modeler for any potential changes. I don't anticipate any's going to happen, but just keep an eye out for any posts or an update on the video's description down below. All right, so good luck, you guys. Remember, the phrase is never tell me the odds, and yeah, we'll see who comes out the winner. Lastly, I just want to make a quick note here. A couple of times now recently, someone has tried to contact me. A couple of you tried to contact me through the YouTube channel and had left their cell phone numbers on the comment section. I'm just going to ask you to refrain from doing that. I just want to leave personal information, including cell phone numbers, off the comment section there. Just sign of the times. We've got to safeguard our information there. So if you need to contact me, interstellarmodeler@gmail.com, or like I said, on Facebook, Augie Gonzalez or Interstellar Modeler. Thanks again, you guys, and I'll see you then in part 2. And good luck again with the contest.